Yep, it's true. I deleted all my social media apps for 30 days, and in this video, I want to share my 5 takeaways. Hey guys, I hope you've been keeping positive and motivated. If this is your first time here, I am Thor and I share my experience as part of my Life After Failure series to entertain, encourage, and inspire you and people all around the world. So how did deleting my social media apps go? To be honest, day 1 and 2, I felt like an addict going through withdrawal, constantly wondering about all the things that I'm missing out on, what other people are getting up to, how many likes I might have gotten on the recent reel, and the post announcing my departure for 30 days. This sounds really pathetic, but here's the thing. These social media companies know what they are doing. They've invested a lot of money fine-tuning these apps to make it seem like it's your best friend who gets you. But the sense of understanding that we get is just a play on our individual psychological weakness, and the only beneficiary are these social media companies. This detox made it evident to me of how reliant and even addicted I've been to them. I spent hours checking my phone over the course of a day for that ever so brief dopamine release, excited for every view, every like, every comment I would receive. On top of it, the aimless scrolling on Instagram or TikTok that keeps you hooked for hours on end, that leaves you feeling uninspired and guilty for all the time wasted. At least that's how I felt. For someone who wants to use each day to be productive to the max, it has become a real problem. That is why number 1 on my takeaways has to be becoming more focused and productive throughout the day. After overcoming this initial phase and putting my phone inside a drawer for most of the day, my focus on what I wanted to achieve each day was clearer and more focused than ever, and I was able to become far more productive as a result. I found that my thought processes were much cleaner and unadulterated. The thoughts are my own kind of thing. Since my day usually starts between 4:30 and 5 AM, I was so productive that I was able to crush through some of my ongoing projects without distractions before my kids even wake up. I felt far less anxious or nervous throughout the day, and the time spent with the children was literally spent with the children. I see a lot of parents sitting with their children, scrolling through their phone, not really paying attention to what their kids are getting up to. My wife and I have been guilty of this ourselves. And I've come to realize how unappealing the look of scrolling actually is. I have found, without having my phone on me most of the day, the time spent with the children is time with undivided attention, and this has been a huge lesson. If I'm honest, the deep interactions through play and discussion have been more rewarding than any number of likes on my social media. I stopped comparing myself to other creators that left me feeling unworthy with the content that I create. But this mental shift actually allowed me to score a job, working with a client on a really interesting documentary piece called Lockdown. It looked at the effects of the pandemic and more specifically the lockdown had on people's mental health. And I was able to take a few things away from this for myself and could definitely relate to a lot of the points that were made. I set out this challenge for myself to show that despite removing social media from my life, I could still score jobs and work in and around a media-related field. For me, having compared myself with other content creators before, I felt intimidated on some jobs, talking myself into not being able to deliver as good as them, which I feel has cost me a few jobs in the past. Something that we all have to realize is that everyone has a unique voice. If you asked 100 people to make any sort of content on a single word like technology, you will get 100 different individual interpretive pieces. We might all claim to understand this concept, but when it comes down to it, we make excuses. But if we overcome this though, I believe we can progress to producing something unique and truly mind-blowing. I stopped wanting things. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we get sold to and have seeds planted in our heads on things that we must have without even knowing it. Seeing the release of the Sony a7S III, apparently a beast of a camera that a lot of my YouTube subscriptions were talking about, I was adamant that I needed one. Yet it is far out of my budget at the moment, and truth is, I don't really need it. During these 30 days, all the material things that I wanted or talked myself into needing was gone. And it left a lot of space for other things to think about, which leads me to number 5. Without all these distractions, my passion and inspiration for other things was reignited. I will tell you a secret. In recent years, I've been working towards getting a big piece of land that we could live off of, or at least live in a more sustainable way. This has been a big dream of mine. At heart, I am just a big tree hugger. Also, for several years I've been very fascinated by the tiny house movement, and throughout these days without social media I became more and more detached to the possessions that I have and discovered that less is more. I gave and am continued to give a lot of my clothes and other possessions to charity, and I'm striving to living a more minimalistic life. For years we were paying for a storage unit that I finally managed to clear out, and I'm amazed of how much money we spent on junk that we were so emotionally attached to, but did not bring any value to our life. Point is, I discovered the things that were really, and I mean really important to me and my life. One other thing that I would like to say is that coming out of the social media detox, we need to be cautious and intentional on how our social media usage looks like. Most importantly, not to be going back to the old habits, which recently I've found myself in, unfortunately. Partially caused through the pain I've been experiencing in my hand recently, which I've made a video about. I had to shift my mind from saying I can't to how can I. There was also the issue with that one video that I produced with now over 5,000 views that I should be very happy about, but I felt a sense of pressure of how I could replicate this success. I don't want this to sound ungrateful. The views came with a whole lot of encouraging and supporting comments that I appreciate more than I can say. Instead of continuing producing, I turned to Reels, leaving me even less inspired. I believe, however, that we're always just one video away from breaking through. So despite my hand, despite my circumstances, I had to shift my mindset from I can't to how can I. This has led me to make the conscious decision to reduce and remove as many distractions from my life as possible, which is why my use of Instagram, especially consuming Reels, has reduced to a bare minimum. So rather than attempting to grow on multiple platforms at the same time, I want to continue primarily focusing on producing content for YouTube. So these were my key takeaways. If you want to share some of your key takeaways, leave them in the comment section below. I really hope that you got something out of this, and I guess the only thing left to say is stay positive and stay motivated, and I shall see you in the next one.